there was more money going around, these things would not be as difficult. While I understand merchandising, it will take a lot to get to that point. It's not impossible. Where we are now in Nollywood, I'm sure people who were in the industry 15 years, maybe 20 years ago, would not have thought that it would happen the way it's happening now. Yes, the Lekki, the Lekki and the VR production companies, maybe they do not have the exact experience that people who produced films 20 years ago did, but they are still somehow making it work. We have an influx of international studios, production companies coming into Nigeria. We have a lot of production companies having deals with Netflix. We have Amazon Prime, who has recently signed a licensing deal with Inkblot and some other production companies. With time, the way that right now Nollywood is gaining ground as to noise. So a lot of people are hearing about Nollywood, they are seeing the prospect of it. The money is not flowing as quickly as we would like it to, but that time is coming. And once we are aware of what is possible and we prepare ourselves, when the opportunity comes, we will be ready. The opportunity, I cannot say the opportunity is there right now. I cannot say that you will go to meet an investor and say, oh, I want to make this movie. When I finish making a movie, I will sell toys, and they'll be like, I take my 20 million. It may not happen tomorrow, but I strongly believe that we will get to that point. And the more we understand how these things work, when that opportunity comes, when that day comes, we'll be ready for it.
Okay. So we have questions in the room, and we also have comments from some of our participants on the Zoom. I just want to read out what Otike has said. Not every film can have merchandise. Most of the films on that list are based on books, comics, or animated stories that have calls following already. You already have people that will buy merchandise even before it is made, and even the issue of spending power. I think a lot has been said about that. Someone has a question?
Not necessarily a question. My name is Justus. What I want to say about this is this merchandising. Before we can promote or grow in that aspect, is we have to deal with the issue of piracy, because you can talk about merchandising and something people might produce might want to how would I say emphasize something like a product or something that's an idea that was created in the movie. But if you don't do the issue, but before you know it, the movie is out today, and then there's a product that like that in Lagos market already. Other people are taking over. Another has produced it already. You understand? So that those funds, so the money that comes out and things like that, do not go to music production and all that, movie production and all that. So I think that for us to grow in that aspect, we have to deal with the issue of piracy. And the government or whatever it is have not done a lot to fight piracy. Today, people make money from music through live streaming and all that platforms. Before now, we've heard artists complain of piracy, because when they release their audio today, there's mass production everywhere. CDs, fake private video players, CDs and videos are out there. So if we don't deal with the issue of piracy, I doubt that we can do much with merchandising in Nigeria.
Sorry, can I say something to that? Yeah. I agree with you 100% on piracy being an issue. But the thing is, I feel like under piracy or before piracy, the real issue is really poverty. I feel like if people were able to afford streaming platforms, if people were able to afford Spotify, afford Netflix, they would pay for these things. And then also if they had the knowledge. Because how is someone who is not able to feed their family going to say, okay, I want to listen to this kid's new song. Let me go and pay 900 naira for Spotify. instead of keeping that money to eat tomorrow. So really, the underbelly is more poverty than it is piracy. In our Copyright Act, copyright regulations, there is a fine for pirates or for sorry, not fine for pirates, but there's a percentage of income, I think, from import of DVDs that goes to the regulators of the NCC to fight piracy. There's actually money that goes as opposed to fund that fight. But even there is only so much they can do because they understand the climate that we live in. If people really, if people had more money just to go around, if there was more money for different, just if there was more disposable income, a lot of these conversations would not really be had. There are certain things that are mates or our mates really in US or in other places who are say at the same, I wouldn't say level of life, but who let's say the same ages, earning around the same or have the same, about the same spending power can do that we cannot do just because of the poverty that somehow envelopes Nigeria. So I feel first of all, if we're able to solve our production versus our consumption issue, that would be a great start with having more disposable income. Just there be more money in the economy and more money going around, then we can now start talk about okay, now that people have a bit more money, maybe they will be more willing to spend money on this as opposed to that. We still have the issue with songs. It's much less now. You don't not just okay, it's not popular as it used to be, but we still have it with movies. I mean, you travel and on the bus, what are they showing? Some movie that just came out last week, but you're not watching it on Netflix. They're not watching it on Iroko TV. They are watching it on Net Niger or something like that. So it still happens. It's not as popular. Maybe it's not as pronounced. Okay, but it still happens.
I just want to lay credence to what you said. Yes, we need more disposable income. But the fact is this: Nigerians are no longer afraid to commit crimes. I don't know if you guys can remember 2 years ago in Ghana, what happened to the Nigerians who were pirating copies and so on. They were helpless. And there were shops who were taxed $300,000. And they now say, but we are charging Ghanaians less than this, we Nigerians, you are doing this and so on. So we need a new Nigeria in the entertainment industry for people to realize what is intellectual property. You dare not in Ghana dub Davido's music and whiskey in the same album. You dare not. You go to jail. But even those of us who are lawyers here walk into music places and say, put Davido there, put jazz for me, and so on. And they say, all of us are guilty here. You dare not do it in Ghana, you go to jail. So aside from making sure Nigerians are exposed to more disposable income, the need for sensitization is there. We need not everything you talk about government when even the government is not working. So we need sensitization amongst ourselves to tell the citizenry of Nigeria that KOK has been acting for 32 years. That, for instance, he's finding it, just an instance, he's finding it difficult to change his car because you are pirating his face.
Yeah.
We want to understand that you are depriving him of his livelihood. That's what they did in Ghana. Sensitization every time. Don't do this, it's not good for our culture. Don't do this, it's not good for our tourism. And now Ghana has become a reference point for Nigeria. That's a shame. So it's not good for us. There is need for orientation. And I think if we all take our handles and do more of these lectures and so on, it will help us. So that the citizenry, because the man in motion is playing portables, music and all this stuff, doesn't know what you're talking about. As long as he's concerned. In fact, somebody told me some years ago, that thing when I don't have decided they help when I publicize them. That's the way he saw Messi. He was seeing it that he was getting more copies into the market. But then he didn't know it was a crime. It was committing. So we need to have more disposable income, we need sensitization, we need orientation of the citizenry. It will help us make more money all around. Thank you very much.
Okay. So my question is still concerning like the merchandising part, but I want to talk about like I'm going to deviate a bit and ask about on the music part. So I think in like 2013 or 2014 when was it Fino when he released album and then everywhere there was like album shirt, everybody was wearing it everywhere. So does that mean like so I want to ask, does this also, if you have an idea, does this also apply to like music? So let's say we go in the same country. Does it mean that Fino could have cashed out from all those album shit
Yeah,
people were wearing on the
definitely. Sorry, can I get it first? Most definitely, sorry. Yes, most definitely he could have cashed out on that. He could have trademarked that phrase, maybe in class 41 under something to do with entertainment, and then started the market with shirts or whatever I told he wanted to sell. If he didn't, probably it's possible he did actually, because nowadays you find that happening more. No, I can't remember who, I think Sabinus, but I don't know if Sabinus did it in class 41. He did it in a different class. So that's why there's a back and forth about pick milk using his term. But that's something that is even encouraged now. A lot of I know I always see Adetumade's tweets talking about how Big Brother housemates can trademark their names, trademark names that they phrases they use a lot and make money off of that. No, I know Dorothy. You know how for people who watch or who are aware of Big Brother, for a lot of times she would always say with my full chest, or she said it a couple of times. Sorry. And then she came out and then she came out with a line of underwear with types or with the name MFC, my full chest, and people recognize that phrase and I suppose identify that with her. So that's an entirely different revenue stream for artists as well. I think it's off though.
So mine's actually not a question, but just slightly an observation that sort of links to what was read on Zoom. Looking here, I can already see the disparity in the Nigerian industry. The kind of movies that we make, do you think it's possible to have proper merchandising? Being that, just looking at it, the target market here is kids. I remember when I was growing up, those destined kids t-shirts, they sell it in front of our church because we could relate. But as an adult, I'm not going to wear a shirt of King of Boys in the office to the church. Even if I do a t-shirt, how much could you make from a t-shirt? You cannot reach this from a mere t-shirt. What usually would make up what usually would make up these numbers? And I'm just saying it based off of what I see here. I'm not thinking it's the Star Wars t-shirts or the Harry Potter t-shirts. I'm thinking it's lunchboxes, school bags, balls, toys, and all those things are targeted at children. But Nigeria, our animation industry is in the mud. I can't think of 5 Nigerian children movies that I can just off the top of my head say went to the box office, shut down the cinemas. I can't think of 5, honestly. So don't you think that that's also like an area that probably should be explored by production studios like your company as well and say, you know what, if we can do this and then max out on merchandising, that could help our industry generally.
Yeah. I agree with you that a lot of the movies here are targeted at children. But first of all, not every movie is going to have a merchandising pipeline. You won't really have rom-coms that have merchandising pipelines. Secondly, some of these production studios they target existing IP. So they are trying to produce a movie, they want one that has as much impact as possible. So they will search out something that maybe came from a book or something that has already a bit of a following and then create a film from that. So, like, let me give you an example of Rings of Power that Amazon is steadily pushing now all over the world. That is like a spin off of Lord of the Rings. Now, Lord of the Rings was huge before. It was a book to start with. Then I think a movie was made out of it, and now a series is being made out of it. something like that, there is a pipeline for merchandising. And the reason they went so hard for that and are pushing the promotion and the advertising is because they know that they want to make money out of it as much as possible. And they know that this kind of production can give them that kind of pipeline. So not every production will be able to do that. And there are actually animation studios in Nigeria. There are a lot of them, but they are not, because, like Sakana already said, we are still struggling with the issue of financing. So not a lot of them have as much money to pump in to these productions to create a Minions or to create a Toy Story. It makes us money to make that kind of a production, and also after making it, promote it. So we, I guess, we're not at that point yet, but there are production companies that do that. There's Anthill, who I know, who I know just recently released an animation based animation. There's also on Netflix as well. It's called Lady Muppets, I think. Lady Muppets or something like that. It's an animation that's already on Netflix, so you could actually watch that. They're not a lot of them, and there's not any that is quite as popular as Toy Story or the Minions yet. But there are animation studios, and there's a pipeline for that. Give it a few years, and give it a bit more of interest, and you will start to see those things form. But they're not always for children. Like for 50 Shades of Grey, that was definitely not a children. And also, the reason that it was made was because the production studio was aware of the huge following that it had, and the amount of people who had read the books before and would want to read the books after that movie was produced. So these production studios, yes, they have a lot of, they are creatives, they want to make great movies, but also it's a business, so they're very strategic about what they pick out. They're not going, yeah, it's if they're going to pick out something to invest a lot of money in, it's going to be something that already has a bit of a following. Like some people are interested in this movie will amplify that, but there's already like IP to start with. That's usually where you see merchandising.
So I'm going to come to you, sir. We have two questions.
Hi, good afternoon. So my name is Rita, and first of all, let me say thank you for mentioning my studios. And
See, she's here.
yeah. So I would like to just write on what Mr. said, and I'd like to throw a question to everybody here. How many of you watch Nigerian movies? How can you defend something you don't believe in enough to sit down and watch it? So I'm an in-house, I'm the head of legal for Antio. Now let me share something with you. I've been with Antio from when Antio started. I can subtitle. I can edit.
Oh, wow.
I do voiceovers, I do ADRs, I do the whole voice acting. So a lot of the times, it's not by the books. If you are not inside it, you don't understand the struggle that goes into making a movie. From the financing, from the ideation, from telling the stories, we spend days just sitting down in a room, trying to come up with different ideas. No, that won't work. Okay, what work? What I think it was the person that spoke on film yesterday. How she outlined it, you would sit down and that can take weeks. You have to look for how to translate that into something, a screenwriter. The person is going to come back to you several times and you will end up taking the from that person to another person. If you want to be from entertainment law in Nigeria, how are you not watching Nigerian movies?
Right.
And somebody went up to me and spoke to me yesterday, and I asked the person, have you watched King of Thieves? Because that's a very big movie. And do you know the difference that went into a movie? Have you watched Prophetess? Nah. Have you watched this? Nah. But you want to be part of the entertainment industry. How? How can you be at the lawyer and not want to be in the process? So there's that aspect. Now let's go to. I thank you so much for doing an amazing job. It was. I would not lie to you. A lot of the time, it was like, oh my god, people are coming to say what they don't know. I'll be honest. But because a number of times, I'm usually not the person in front of the camera. I don't do this. So a lot of time, gotten contracts from the office. I've dealt with your contract. I've said, I just don't try to pull my people. So you have where, when you talk about merchandising, now what I think is this. For movies, it's hard to merchandise. And the reason is because, is it the actor you want to put as your brand person for a movie? No, actors change. It's easier to have merchandising materials from music because the artist is the brand. And it is the artists that they want to put on their t-shirts. They are the ones that when they say in one liner like this, take it and run. But with movies, it's not Star Wars. You don't do it, you don't replicate it. Because at the end of the day, if they change somebody, if George Lucas left Star Wars will still be Star Wars. And it will still sell. So to answer your question, or I feel like you asked a question about merchandising, it works better with music and with animation. Now let's take into animation itself. How many of you know the process that goes into animation? No, it's very important. I really need everyone to understand that if you want to go into an industry, you do your homework. Animation is big. I know how many animators have had to, from where we were, they've taken them from us. Sincerely.
Yeah.
From where we were, they're taking people, until has come and take, Netflix has pushed that from our office. We know. Animation is harder. Yeah. It's hard, I must tell you. And it takes longer time. We released League of Orisha.
Yes, that's the name.
September 11th. Do you know how long that took? To animate one frame, there are 14 frames in animation. I'm a lawyer, I'm telling you this. There are 14 frames. So, I think yesterday someone mentioned about something, principal photography, and I couldn't explain it. It was basically how it used to be. Remember Mickey Mouse then, it was like a book we were flipping. It basically means that every single time the person is moving their hand, it's a new drawing. So that's what principal, that's why it's like, principal photography. That's 24 frames in a movie, in a particular movie, there's 24 frames for movies. For animation, it depends on my brother and sister. Depends on how it's animated. So when you talk about animation in Nigeria is in the mud, I'm standing here to say no. It's not anywhere close to the mud. If you pick up your phone and Google Frogek, we did that. Check the quality. Check League of Orisha quality. At least you can attest to it. So I was happy when you mentioned it. But it takes money. A lot of money. It takes a lot of time. A single animation can just 1 minute animation can take you up to 3 months to put together. Because you have the person that will do storyboard. The person who creates the characters and illustrate it, they will fine tune it. You have person that will texture the characters. How many characters are in the animation? You have your environment. So what I'm trying to say is, first of all, please, it's necessary that if you want to really be in this entertainment industry, don't stand from the outside and tell us, you should do this, you should do that. I'm a lawyer, listen to me. No. I just tell for you to sign contracts. And they sign contracts 5 months after. So you need to know, first know what you want to do inside with us. I dare say yes with us. Because if you need to be in this industry, you have to want it. And to want it, you want to read the books. You want to watch movies. I watch movies as work, not as play. I need scripts because I'll give you a typical example. If you have a brand, let me tell you where your job as a lawyer comes in. If you have a brand that comes to sponsor in your movie, or wants to support in your movie, and you have an actor who just, I don't know, without thinking. Nestle has chosen to, they want their brand placement and integration.
I give you my number too so that we can
discuss. Called Biscuit Bowl. And you have a Timini who's
Thank
just
you.
walking on the set. He just finished drinking 5 alive outside. It's halfway. And let's we're doing BTS. And he just saying BTS. And the camera, for some reason, captures 5 alive as he's listen to Sui. And that's not the movie, that's behind the scene roles. Those are marketing assets. So all I'm saying is, please, if you want to be in the business, know the business. And we are not where we are when we were before. We are doing better. And movies are with plenty money going into it. Thank you.
Very much. Honestly, after hearing that, I don't think First, I admit that I'm oriented anyways. And I want to know the business. That's why we are here. And I guess I'll be meeting with yeah. But my question is this on product placement. So I'm a counsel to this brand. What are things to look out for product placement as the legal officer? And that's it from me. Thanks.
Okay, in regards to product placement, before she answers, I heard one gist or rumor or comment somewhere. I don't know if it's true, but I heard that Apple, please note, I don't know if it's true because I know this is being recorded. I'm just saying I heard it and I would like to confirm it if anybody out there has information as to its correctness or falsehood. I heard that Apple, right, when they do their product placement in a movie, you know, we have the bad guy and the good guy in the film. That the Apple phone can never be in the bad guy.
Yeah.
It always has to be in the actor. I don't know how true that is, but please answer the question.
Okay, let me start with, Rita, I understand your pains. I really do, not pains, but I understand your comments. And I agree to an extent that, yes, if you are going to participate in the entertainment industry, it does make sense that you watch the movies that you are drafting contracts and negotiating about, because if not, you're on the outside looking in, you can't relate to a lot of things. So let's say you have a contract and say something about screen credit. You just, okay, yeah, screen credit is fine, but you don't really know what that looks like on screen. Screen credits have a lot of complex. There are actually nuances to screen credits. Sometimes you have the actor whose name is the first name. Sometimes that's negotiated. When you go and see and an actor, that's also negotiated. Sometimes when you see starring, that can be negotiated. Or you say featuring, that can be negotiated. So there are a lot of nuances that you don't necessarily understand unless you are involved. So if you are, I don't, not every actor, not every lawyer will be privileged to go on set. If you can, maybe you should, but at least you should watch the movies. You should definitely watch the movie. You should listen to the music and do that legally as well. So go to cinemas, watch on actual pay, and then watch on a platform, not Netflix or any other illegal platform. So yeah, contribute to the economy that is paying you, contribute to the industry that is paying you, or at least that you want to pay you. So yes, when we're done with this, everybody should. These are not our movies, but go and see Brotherhood, go and see Woman King. It's not Nigerian, but still see it so you can see what we can do. Also see Blood Sisters. That one is mine, so you should see that one. Good. We have another one coming out, so you guys should see that one too. Then the next question, what you should look out for as a lawyer to a brand. First of all, if product placement is something that you're interested in, you should have a budget for it. So you should say, okay, this is how much you want to spend. This is like an amount that we would like to spend. So you're looking out for, say, the track record of the producer. Not everyone will have a track record, but that's good to have. The track record, what they have produced before. You're looking at, and in some situations, once again, depending on how much money you are willing to spend, and also the kind of products that you are looking to integrate into this film. That's now where your question comes in, as to you can ask maybe how the product will be used. So you don't necessarily always want to have your product associated with something that is negative. So you don't want it to be shown in a negative light. So you don't want it to be if possible, it's not always able to possible to negotiate, but you don't want your bottle to be the one that they used to kill the good guy. That kind of thing. So if it's possible to negotiate that, then you want to try and negotiate that kind of thing. So Apple, they have leverage. Your brand may or may not have the leverage. Apple is huge. Even whether or not Apple gives you their phone as product placement, everybody will be using an Apple phone anyway. So if they want to give you money or want to give you products to use in their film, they can now say, okay, fine, use it too, but nobody can use our products. They have that kind of leverage. A smaller brand may not have that kind of leverage. So it's not everyone who can negotiate something like that. Some people can, some people cannot. Now, you may want to negotiate the number of seconds, but with that, it is very dicey because it's what happens really. It depends on how the story goes. So maybe in shooting, you get when you're filming, you get 7 minutes. By the end of the day, when it is edited, 7 seconds. 5 of those 7 seconds end up on the editing floor. All you get is 2 seconds. And there's not much a producer can do about it because they are not a slave, but they have to follow the story. Where the story leads is really where they go. It's not, even though your money is in there, they will do their best, but may not always be able to assure you that you get, 7 seconds or that your brand or your product will be prominent. So you can just find a way to put it in there that you will get as in their best discretion or reasonable discretion, that they will put your product in the positive light and it will get a certain number of seconds. You can try and negotiate that and see where you land. So those are the things I think you can start with asking for.
Before we answer more questions from the room, I'd just like to pay attention to guys on Zoom and just see what they're saying. Questions or comments. So, Anissa Baby is saying, I believe another way to improve merchandising in Nigeria has to do with Nigerians' ability to promote it themselves. Most of them are more concerned about the fame and money that they have earned rather than how they can promote it other than with the person. Maybe it should be suggested in contract agreements that actors should wear the merchandise of the movie they are in and maybe gain a profit percentage. People will be happy to patronize the same thing as celebrities wearing, easy bubble actors promote their merchandise. So the next one is from Cecilia. I think this one is from Kyoki. She says, our inner eye Kyoki can even start his own merch tags like, I'm ready for the sacrifice. Or I did the sacrifice. Money must be made. And she said she will buy. To buy. Yeah, then we have Oheji who says, guys, if you ask me, this rather shows massive opportunity. The critical thing to do will be to influence the expectation and interest of the audience, which is Nigerians. Someone said it earlier, Nigerians are just more interested in stuff that are foreign. Filmmakers will not have attained the success we see today if they weren't ready to take a risk. Just like we were able to get a good number of Nigerians to start watching and paying for Nigerian movies, we can also influence their interest in merch, from the Nigerian entertainment industry, perhaps over time. Great. Do we have any more questions here, Lisa?
Good afternoon. My name is Roland. Thank you for your insightful presentation. My question actually relates to book adaptations.
Book adaptation.
Yes, for films that are based on book adaptations, how do we determine the licensing fees and the royalties? Thank you.
First of all, I want to start with saying I'm a huge fan of book adaptations. First of all, anytime you get a movie that is based on existing IP, you already have a showing. So it's like you already know that at least 5 people who read that book will come and see it in the cinema. At least you have that for starters. Or at least they will tell people, that book I liked, it's in the cinema now, or it's going to be in the cinema now, you should see it. So that's already a great way to start. So when you are assessing how much you want to, so with book adaptations, what usually happens is you option the rights to start with for most of the time. So say a producer comes to you and says, oh, this is your book, I would like to make a movie out of it, but I don't really have the money yet. So what I will do is I will pay you an option fee. So that option fee is you give me the rights for a certain, let's say 12 months, 18 months, and for that 12 or 18 months, I can't make the movie yet, but nobody else can buy the rights to make the movie. So I'm giving you this money, and now have exclusive rights to try and get money to make the film. So that's what the option rights and the option fees are about. You can also renew those option fees, say for another 18 to 24 months or something, depending on what's negotiated really. So how you can determine is really, first of all, you look at, let's say, how many copies the book has sold. That's the data that's important to you as someone who has written a book or who is selling a book. You know, how many copies the book has sold, how popular the book was at the time, how popular it is now. Maybe if it has been released for some years, how popular it was at the time, if it still has like an audience, if it's still relatable now. Now, you may not always be able to negotiate royalties, depending on the kind of agreement you're going into, the production company or the platform that's going to license it. You may not always be able to get royalties, but so if you can't get royalties, you should get as sizable and upfront license fee. Or, no, it's not called license fee, it's called a purchase fee. Because basically, I'm buying the rights to turn this book into a movie. So, a sizable upfront fee. So, say, let me give the example of Bridgerton. How many of us got Bridgerton on Netflix? Okay. So, for Bridgerton, it's Shonda Rhimes' production company basically got the rights to produce like the entire, I think there are 7 or 6 books. So in that kind of situation, because Netflix does not give royalties, it would have to be an option fee unless she was able to get an entirely different deal from them, which is unlikely and unusual, but it's not impossible. So you will look at the platform if you are able to get that kind of information, because maybe at the time when you are negotiating, the producer may not know where it will end up. He may be looking to get to cinema. It may end up on a streamer, so you can't really tell. So as much as possible, you want to get a sizable option fee. Now, another thing I'm going to say, this is international standards. It doesn't necessarily apply in Nigeria all the time, but sorry, someone said it doesn't apply in Nigeria. It doesn't apply in Nigeria yet. It could get to a point where it could. But another way that book option fees and purchase fees are negotiated is usually you can get a percentage of the budget. So you could say 2.5% of the budget of the film. That's how much I'm going to sell the rights to this book for. But then even that, you cannot just go, supposing somehow Marvel now gets their hands on the book, they want to make it for $10 million. The producer will get a bit crazy about that. So there's usually a cap on it. So they'll say, okay, you get 2.5, I get 2.5% of the budget, capped at $5 million. So even if the budget is 15 million, max you can get is 2.5 or 5 million. So you can negotiate a cap and a floor. That's what we call it. So maximum and minimum. So no matter what happens, even if it is a church that wants to make a movie, this is how much you cannot go below this amount. Even if it's Marvel that making it, you can't go beyond this amount. So that's also another way to negotiate purchase prices.
Thank you so very much. Any final questions? Okay, just one more question. Go for it. All right, sir. 3 more questions this time again.
So thank you for a very wonderful presentation. So in terms of intellectual property, so I know that for the music industry they have the COSON, which is the Copyright Society of Nigeria, and then for the audiovisuals, that's the movie industry, we have the Audiovisual Rights Society of Nigeria, that's ABRS. Yeah. So I used to work for a multinational company. It's a quick service surveillance. So they show Nollywood is in some of their stores. So on one occasion, they will send an invoice for royalties, AVRS, for projecting movies. So rightly or wrongly, they are on subscription to DSTV, and they run on a commercial bouquet. So rightly or wrongly, they will invoice for payment of royalties for the movies they displayed in their stores. So when we went to court, my own argument was yeah, that bouquet. So the initial bouquet is supposed to cover notice. So in light of talking about intellectual property now, so how best can the movie industry make use of such societies like the ADRs to be able to make money from their royalties for intellectual property exploitation?
It feels like three questions.
Yes, so basically the way that the idea for AVRS is supposed to be that it works in a similar way that COSON works for the music industry. But I'm not aware up until recently that it has been a very, very active organization. I could be wrong, but up until about 2019, 2020, I wasn't very aware of their activities. But if production company, not just production companies, but actors, crew members, signed up to AVRS, and if AVRS is collecting, royalties or blanket licenses from people who show Nigerian movies in Nigeria and outside Nigeria, then that money I expect to be shared the same way that COSON is also supposed to share um, money from movies and other kinds of content. So that's supposed to be the way that it works. I'm not very sure how it is working presently, but I know that AVRS is they are trying to build up their portfolio again and get the word out there about what they do and how they are trying to pay actors and pay audiovisual content creators. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys, please a round of applause for you.
Thank you.
I think my biggest takeaway from our presentation is that as lawyers, we still have a lot to do in the movie business particularly. So the music business seems to have gone a bit further than the movie business. To me, I don't know if someone else here has that same impression, but I think the music guys kind of like have their acts right already, or they seem to already, but the movie industry still needs a bit more work and financing. And if you guys remember what Akiyemi said, he also mentioned some things about financing. So if you are that guy or lady that brings in the money, right, if you get a percentage of that. So rather than have them go and talk to the Dangotes, you can be the one that is talking to that Dangote and bringing the money in and you get a percentage. So we still have a lot of work to do in the movie industry.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Wait.
Sorry. Yes, in relation to bringing in the financing. So once again, international best practices. Usually in the US and other countries, what you have is the legal and business affairs department. So legal drafts contracts, they review contracts, business affairs, they negotiate money. So they would negotiate with the actors, they would negotiate with the financiers as well. So you don't necessarily have to be the one who is, drafting contract, pouring about words. You can also be the one who is trying to negotiate how the money comes in. So it's like a two-way thing. Whichever one you feel is more applicable to you, whichever you feel you have more experience in or you are more interested in, you could also do that.
Please, a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So guys, it feels kind of somehow for me because we are gradually coming to an end of the training session. We have one more model today. Trust me,
It's a novel.
it might be
That's
the
interesting.
last.
It's a legal thriller.
Oh, that's nice.
Full
for
Stars
adaptation
Energy
end of this year.
Are you serious? Who's adaptation?
I'm telling you guys, just
Nkechukwu,
tap
yes.
all you
Otike
can
Odibi.
from this
Otike
because
Odibi.
they are in the best position to really lecture us and tell us what we need
Because
to
I'm not
learn
have a picture with
about
Okay,
the
all right.
industry.
Thank you, sir.
So we're going to have lunch now, and we're going to come back for the last session of the day. So our participants online, thank you so much for joining us and following us as well. We hope you're learning and we are having as much impact as we are. So we'll be back in another 45 minutes and we'll have the last session. Thank you so much.